Welcome back into Citizen Sports Talk. Kaden Reinhard, joined here with Jacob Smith. No episode last week, just one basketball game. It was Floyd County girls basketball taking on Pulaski, but we'll take us down the week this week on our games. Jacob, you want to start off with Monday's action?
Yeah, so Monday, Carroll County girls basketball, JV and varsity, hosted Patrick Henry from Glade Springs. Carroll County, for the varsity team, were able to get their first win of the year with a 67-49 win. And some notes I have here: Callie Harris had a big performance Monday night, along with Carolyn Mitchell and Lainey Jo Leonard points-wise. It was a very complete team win, I thought. It was a close game early, but Carroll was able to pull away with it in the final three quarters. Really got some momentum to start the second quarter, really late in the first quarter as well, and played a complete game to get their first win of the year.
Yeah, I mean, your first one of the year being almost a near 20-point victory. It's nice to get some footing under you after, of course, losing their first game to Pulaski.
Yeah, and speaking of Pulaski, kind of talking about last week when they played Floyd County, a close loss for Floyd County, 56-54. Like you said, that was the one game that we would have possibly been able to cover last week. A lot of the activities last week got canceled with the forecast from last week and all the, what's the word I'm looking for, precipitation? Would that be a good way to describe it? So a close loss last week for Coach Sneed's group, 56-54 at home against Pulaski. And unfortunately, they suffered another close loss, this time to Franklin County on Tuesday, 58-54. Talking about the game on Tuesday this week, Natalie Morris had 20 points for the Lady Buffs. And again, it felt like a complete performance for the most part, team-wise. It really feel like it was one player like carrying the weight of the Lady Buffs' performance. As for the Eagles, rather, Alana Preston, she had about a little bit over 30 points. So she scored over half of Franklin's points on Tuesday night, and she had about 15 free throws in the second half. So she got to the line very frequently late in the game, very important time of the game, and that was what made the difference and allowed the Eagles to get the win on Tuesday night over the Lady Buffs. But talking about, you mentioned it as well, the boys, before we got started, the boys going to Franklin County. That was a close win for the boys. That's actually a little bit of a preview for Chance Harman. The Eagles taking on the Buffaloes to wrap up the Chance Harman Classic in 2026. The boys would improve to 2-0 on the year, and then Carroll County, they were 2-0 for their boys basketball team, but suffered their first loss at Fort Chiswell, which they got a close win against a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they've had some big wins under their belt. I mean, you said the Cavaliers starting 2-0. Both of those victories were over 20 points. The win at Lord Botetourt was by 30. That's not a bad team at all. They've just, found some uneven footing, kind of even the same, I think, with the Floyd girls. They started off 1-0 with head coach Sneed coming back into the position, lost that 2-point game to Pulaski, and then kind of just trickled down into the two losses last week.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily snowballed, but the two losses last week for the Lady Buffs and then Tuesday, it kind of unfortunately hindered them. I don't know. Watched a little bit of the game Thursday. I was at Pulaski watching the boys' game, so it seemed like there were definitely some struggles for the Lady Buffs on Thursday. A 76-19 loss at Galax. A lot of the things that were issues for the Lady Buffs on Thursday were present when they played Pulaski County a few weeks ago. Transition defense was something that I noticed watching a little bit of the game in Pulaski last night. And obviously when a team puts 70 points on you and you struggle to get double digits or very low score compared to your opponent, obviously it's not a great night for the game.
That's a game you really just have to put behind you, move on to next week, with a blank slate, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking ahead, obviously you'll mention when we kind of wrap things up what's coming up next week, obviously the Christmas week. But that what was a quad, now a triple header where there's no JV girls game on Monday, that's going to be an important game, an important test for Floyd County, for the Lady Buffs, see if they can rebound after the performance that they put up Thursday and coming off of two close losses. On top of that, trying to break that 3-game losing streak on Monday.
Yeah, against Auburn, it's the rivalry school, you can say. So even if they weren't on this 3-game losing streak, I think they'd be playing their hearts out no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard to – sometimes it's just part of the game, those close losses. And you see it any sport, any level. When these close losses mount, it can be disheartening. I mean, it can be make or break sometimes when they begin to pile up. And even you kind of saw it with the Lady Buffs last year. A lot of close losses early in the year kind of made the difference on if they got in the postseason at the end of the year. And looking at the boys now, part of the reason why they had success last year, the hot start, and they got a hot start again. They're now 3-0 after they defeated Pulaski last night, 67-52. Great team performance. I thought it was very nice. Some things you need to clean up, of course, and we've mentioned a couple times already in the last couple weeks with it being early in the young season. There's always going to be things to clean up. There's going to be things in March when teams are going to be vying for state championships that need to get cleaned up in order for them to host a championship trophy at the end of the season. But I talked to Coach Harman and Gavin Swortzel after the game. Gavin Swortzel had a big performance last night, led the team in scoring, had almost 20 points, if not 20 points. Mason Cochran and Isaiah Cantrell had a couple big threes early in the game for Floyd County that kind of cemented control of the game. And here's what Coach Harman and Gavin had to say after the win Thursday night in Pulaski. All right, so Coach Harman talking about the win against the Cougars tonight, a 3-0 start now. Part of the success you guys had last year was the big start early in the year last year. How important is that the second year in a row?
I just think it's big to get on the schedule. I mean, we've played 2 games in 3 weeks, and now that we're getting into where we're practicing, playing, I think it's more important for us to get some type of rhythm, because that helps with the way we play, the way we practice. But it's definitely great to get started with a great wins here against some big teams. I mean, Franklin was much improved. Pulaski County came to play. They just got a big win against K Spring. I mean, that's a huge win for them. And, Blacksburg wasn't no joke to start the season off, but starting off 3-0, but we still got to build. Auburn's really good. We got them on Monday, so we still got to build.
And talking about the 3-0 start, all 3 of those games on the road, how important is it going to be, talking about that quality matchup with Auburn on Monday, how important is that game going to be at home?
Man, it's just nice to get a home game. You go the whole month of December and finally play at home. It's nice to be able to play with the girls too, and everybody can come out and see all of them right there at home. So we're excited to get back home. We hadn't played there. We had our scrimmage there, but to be able to play a game there, last game we played there was the Virginia High game, so I'm sure the excitement will be there, but we're excited to get back on the court at Floyd.
And transition to you, Gavin, leading the team in scoring, playing very well inside tonight. What allowed that to happen with your team involved tonight?
I think my teammates trusted me, giving me the ball. Them being able to shoot the ball very well has opened up the paint a lot because they can't help in. I think that's led to a lot of success in the inside.
Thank you, guys.
We're back after you just heard from Coach Harman there and Gavin Swortzel. One thing I just wanted to touch on real quick, they mentioned it both. The team of this Buffaloes, they always play like a team. That's what you're going to get from Coach Harman. And that's another reason I think that they've been off to this great 3-0 start. Once again, I mean, these last 2 games, they've had 7 counts of players having over double-digit scoring efforts. 5 different players in those last 2 games. Chanson Harman, Noah Farley, Gavin Swortzel, Lincoln Cox, and Mason Cochran all scored at least 10 points in the last 2 games for the Buffaloes.
Yeah, and it makes it difficult when you're an opponent and you're trying to figure out a game plan, because sometimes part of the game plan is like, who's the one player we got to take out of the game? And when you don't really have that when you're a complete team, you have 10 guys that could go out there and compete and put points on the board and, make the team better. It's hard to really focus in if you're an opponent. Let's go with Auburn, for example. It's hard to say, like, who's the guy we got to watch out for on Monday, or who are we trying to limit getting the possession and getting the shots they want on, just using Monday for an example with the boys Auburn game coming up on Monday. But I feel like I kind of mentioned it earlier. Coach Harman mentioned it too when I asked him the question. Just they had a big, strong start to the year last year. They only lost like 2 games in their first 10, and they ended up being the number 1 seed and hosting the region all the way. Got a home playoff game out of it. So a strong start to the year definitely played out very well for them last year. So definitely was an important aspect for sure. And wrapping up everything from Thursday, Carroll County, who is on the district schedule for Floyd County coming up in the coming weeks, as crazy as that sounds to say, just a couple weeks into the season for basketball. They lost 79-73 at Christiansburg and dropped to 2-2, and they play at Narrows on the 27th. So definitely interesting to see how Coach Barnes' team responds after dropping 2 straight. It's kind of the same question we were asking earlier about the Lady Buffs on Monday. How will they respond to their 3 straight losses and what they put out on the floor on Thursday against Galax?
I think so. I mean, it's really the exact same thing. It's just finding your footing. I mean, it's early in the season. You're going to have some losses. You're going to have to fight through them. So just really putting them behind you, finding that new place, trying to get every win. Every game matters, really, in high school basketball.
Yeah. Kind of along that line, like, there's so many examples just in the last couple of years of, doing the work here, covering our Floyd County sports and now Carroll County sports, where just 1 or 2 games makes a difference. You see it in professional sports, college sports, with the March Madness, the last 4 in or whoever, last 4 out or the first 4 out, so on and so forth. Even a Notre Dame-Miami example, a week 1 loss for Notre Dame kept them out of the playoffs instead of Miami. So it's hard to not say that every game matters. Of course, every game matters, and you can see how throughout the years, and I'm sure we'll talk about it once February comes around, like how these games matter, are that important. 6 points for one team, 0 points for another, especially with the Floyd County's region, for example, where half of the region plays in the Three Rivers district and the other half plays in the Dogwood district for the most part, Liberty the one exception. They're all playing each other. So you're definitely going to get a feel for who's the top teams, at least between the 2 districts. And it'd be interesting to see not just the eye test, of course, but the points. It's gonna have to play out when you play half the region twice a year.
Definitely, I think so.
But I guess we're ready to wrap things up. If you want to go ahead and give us what to expect the Christmas week.
Yeah, Christmas week. It's going to be a short week to enjoy the holidays for everybody. We'll start with the Buffaloes tomorrow, Saturday the 20th. Indoor track, girls and boys traveling down the state towards Bristol at Abington for their meet. And then as well, girls JV basketball going to be heading to Eastern Montgomery for their matchup tomorrow, on Saturday. And then ending the week for the Buffaloes, just barely getting it started on Monday. That quad, like you mentioned, turned into a trio. No girls JV. They won't be taking on the Auburn Eagles, but everybody else will be in Floyd County at the new gym, of course. And then for the Cavaliers on Saturday, wrestling girls, they have an invitational at Radford for their varsity matchup. And then as well, the tournament we've mentioned, girls, JV, and varsity hosting Mount Airy in Carroll tomorrow. So same for them. They got some action on Monday, just like the Buffaloes. That same tournament that they'll be taking a part in on Saturday, they get to play another game on Monday. They'll host Grayson then on Monday. And then they get one extra day of action for the Cavaliers sports on Tuesday. Another girls wrestling invitational heading down past Roanoke to Lord Botetourt, or excuse me, in Roanoke into Lord Botetourt.
Yeah, which I'm sure you'll be able to talk a lot about the tournament that the Carroll girls will be playing in. You'll be calling the games for us on NFHS and later on CCTV Channel 20. But definitely, like you said, a short week, but definitely a lot going on. And it's going to kind of be the same way next week with the New Year, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, of course. But I think outside of, just the holidays, we wish everyone happy holidays. Next week, I believe we might have to preview some Chance Harman basketball. That's always something to look forward to in the new year, the first weekend of January. So we might have to preview some of those matchups. But from here in our studio, Citizen Sports Talk, Jacob Smith.
Kaden Reinhard.
Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your weekend.